The COVID-19 pandemic has brought on a series of challenges for the credit union movement, but it continues to thrive. However, there is one issue that is of serious concern at this time, that of de-risking. Now, de-risking refers to financial institutions exiting relationships and closing the accounts of clients considered high risk. President of the Caribbean Confederation of Credit Unions, Winston Fletcher, says they have been losing access to some international banks, and this has caused credit unions to do things differently. He says they are in discussions with the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank to see how it can be resolved. Mr. Fletcher was speaking during the program Link Up on CBC TV8.
Which has come about mainly from the standpoint of the kind of risk that the financial sector faces now. I mean, cybercrime is a major threat to operation, and so the kind of remedies that are being employed, if we're not careful, the legislative responses to these potential threats and real threats could actually stymie our growth. And so we have been looking at that. De-risking, for example, has imposed significant burdens on our credit unions. The way we used to do business with our correspondent banks and being able to establish good and working relationships with them have kind of changed.
First Vice President of the Barbados Cooperative and Credit Union League, Sherwin Greenidge, says the credit unions have continued to separate themselves from the traditional banks as they are not driven by profits. He says members will always be shareholders in their respective credit unions.
It's not about making the surplus, but providing opportunity where your co-worker or your family can be able to improve and create wealth without having the additional costs associated with the bank. So as a credit union member in a financial institution, you have the same vote. One member, one vote, and your vote is equivalent to the person who might have invested $250,000 and you have only invested $5,000, you have the equal right. So that's one of the major benefits and differences between the banks and the credit union. When there's a surplus, the monies do not go overseas, they are returned to the members.
At least one insurance company has seen a fall off in the payment of motor vehicle insurance premiums during the COVID-19 pandemic. General Manager of Cooperators General Insurance, Anton Lovell, says the company understands how difficult it is for people at this time, and that's why it has been extending its credit terms and waiving penalties.
Previously, persons were covered their premiums in 3 months and 4 months. Now they're asking for extended terms. So we are, in fact, granting the terms and doing so, as I said before, any penalties. And persons who are affected mainly are persons in the taxi area and the hard carriers.
And Mr. Lovell is pleased to report people have been keeping up with their house insurance premiums.
We are quite happy to see persons are in fact insuring their properties, and that is good because obviously we're in the hurricane season. And I figure that because of the real disaster that occurred last year in the Bahamas, persons are more conscious, and we haven't seen any follow-up on the property side at all. So that's encouraging.
Let's take a look now at how stocks traded on selected exchanges across the region.
In Jamaica, Pulse Investments Limited was the volume leader with 9,343,648 units. In Trinidad and Tobago, National Flour Mills Limited was the volume leader with 100,170 shares changing hands, all for a value of $183,311.50. And here in Barbados, Goddard Enterprises Limited was the sole security trading 69 shares at $2.89 each.